To survive in an unpredictable world, you need to be part boring accountant and part crazy rock star. Today's video is on the Barbell Strategy. It's a mental model that combines two extremes: extreme risk avoidance and extreme risk taking. It's grounded in the stoicism of Seneca, where the goal is to be in a position where you have more to gain than you have to lose. In this video, you'll learn why avoiding the middle is your best defense against catastrophe, how asymmetry makes you antifragile, and why tinkering beats intelligence almost every time. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Dante, and each week I break down a powerful mental model from the world's greatest doers, distilling their decades of experience into a short video that gives you practical thinking tools that you can use immediately. Okay, before we get started, I want to define some of the terms that will be used repeatedly in this video. The first is antifragility, which describes things that benefit from randomness, uncertainty, and chaos. What doesn't kill it makes it stronger. The second term is a black swan. This is a rare, unpredictable event that carries an extreme impact. Black swans can be both positive and negative. And the last term is asymmetry, which is used to describe a situation where the potential upside is much larger than the potential downside, or the reverse. In other words, it's the opposite of symmetry. Let's get started. So the barbell strategy represents a specific method for achieving antifragility by combining two distinct extremes while rejecting the center. Like a barbell, the weight is on either end and not in the middle. Now, the intentional avoidance of the middle is central to this philosophy because it's a position that often holds hidden vulnerabilities. This is largely because the so-called medium risks are highly susceptible to massive measurement errors that can lead to unexpected disasters. In an environment of wild uncertainty, the risks of rare events, black swans, are impossible to predict with accuracy. And consequently, those who believe they're taking a moderate risk may actually be facing a hidden risk of total ruin due to the miscalculation of these rare high-impact outcomes. In the realm of finance, a classic barbell allocation involves placing roughly 90% of resources in extremely safe instruments that are robust against market crashes. The remaining 10% is then placed in maximally risky speculative bets, like venture capital portfolios or high leverage options. This strategy ensures a maximum known loss, meaning a person is protected by a floor and can't possibly lose more than a small fraction of their funds, in this case, that 10%. Simultaneously, this speculative portion of the barbell remains open to massive open-ended potential gains from positive black swan events. But this approach extends far beyond banking and into professional and creative life through what Taleb calls the accountant and the rock star. For example, many successful writers have had stable, low-pressure day jobs that give them the stability necessary to survive. This foundation provides freedom to engage in uncompromising and highly risky creative pursuits in their free time. This creates a robust financial base while maintaining exposure to that rock star upside of publishing a potential bestseller. Similarly, in the context of physical health, a biological barbell would be replacing moderate exercise with a combination of extremes. Instead of long hours of moderate cardio, this model suggests short bursts of high-intensity stressors, like heavy weightlifting or sprinting, followed by long periods of idleness or effortless walking. I'm not talking about the brisk walks of the type you read about in the health section of the New York Times. I mean walking without making any effort. Our ancestors didn't jog, making sure that their heart rate stayed at zone 3. They didn't play tennis at 11 a.m. twice a week. They swung between extremes, sprinting every once in a while when they were being chased or chasing something else. The rest of the time, they pretty much walked around aimlessly. The barbell is built on a foundational principle of asymmetry, which explains that a system is only anti-fragile if its potential gains from a random event are significantly larger than its potential losses. This idea is based on the teachings of the ancient philosopher Seneca, who argued that we should protect ourselves against downside risks while remaining open to huge rewards. Anything that's fragile is in a dangerous position because it has more to lose than to gain when things get messy. On the other hand, something anti-fragile actually benefits from randomness and volatility because its upside is much greater than its downside. To visualize this concept, we can think of the right side of a smile curve on a graph. in contrast to a frown curve. A smile curve represents a convex situation, where a person wins big if they are right, but only loses a little if they are wrong. This favorable imbalance allows a person to be wrong many times, but still come out ahead because one big win covers all the small losses. In contrast, a frown curve is concave and represents fragility, where small errors can lead to massive, irreversible damage. A famous historical example of using asymmetry is the story of Thales, a philosopher who bought the first ever recorded options. Basically, he paid a very small amount of money for the right to use someone else's olive presses if the harvest that year turned out to be big. This meant that his potential loss was limited to the small fee he paid, but his potential profit from a lucky harvest was huge. Now, this story shows that having optionality, the right but not the obligation to do something, is a powerful tool for creating favorable asymmetry. This idea of asymmetry is actually a great substitute for intelligence or perfect knowledge. You don't need to be an expert at predicting the future if you set yourself up with a favorable asymmetry where you benefit from uncertainty. This hidden benefit is known mathematically as Jensen's inequality, which proves that the average outcome for an antifragile system will be much higher than the outcome for a moderate system. Ultimately, the goal here is to remove the risk of total failure while leaving the ceiling open for massive, unexpected success. In a world full of surprises and black swans, mitigating fragility is not just a good idea, it is a requirement, a strict requirement. If the loss that you suffer is so big, it becomes irreversible, which is a concept known as path dependence. For example, if a gambler loses all their money in a single bad bet, it doesn't matter how much they could have won in future gambles. They have no money left. They're out of the game. So how do we clip this downside? I think Elon Musk puts it perfectly.
Failure is essentially irrelevant unless it is catastrophic.
In order to clip the downside, you have to ensure that no single event can result in terminal ruin. If the loss you suffer is fatal, then the potential returns never have the chance to be experienced. Okay, so the most effective tool for managing this risk is the barbell strategy, where you've got 90% of your eggs in one basket, the safe basket, and the remaining 10% in maximally speculative, high-risk bets with unlimited potential gain. This configuration ensures that while the downside is strictly capped at 10%, the system remains open to the explosive payoffs of potential black swans. Clipping the downside is further reinforced through redundancy, which functions as a form of insurance against the unknown. Unlike optimized systems, which are designed for maximum efficiency, redundant systems can withstand stressors and outliers that were not anticipated in the original plan. Take the human body, for example. We got 2 eyes, 2 kidneys, 2 ears, and extra lung capacity. In short, follow the ancient wisdom of preparing for the worst while remaining exposed to the best. If you have optionality, you don't need to know exactly what the future holds. You just need to be able to recognize a favorable outcome when it occurs and capitalize on it. Optionality is simply having the power to exercise a choice, but you don't have to do it. This is the ultimate tool for handling a world that we don't fully understand, because it allows us to benefit from positive surprises while staying safe from negative ones. In the barbell strategy, having options means that you can be wrong most of the time as long as you're right once in a big way. This is why optionality is a great substitute for knowledge. If you have enough choices, you don't need to be a genius at predicting the future or even understand how everything works. The best way to use optionality is through the process of tinkering, which is essentially a little trial and error. Instead of sitting in a room trying to come up with the perfect plan or complicated theory that explains everything, the tinkerer goes out and tries a bunch of small experiments. This is actually how many of the world's greatest inventions were made. For example, the jet engine was built by engineers who just kept adjusting and tweaking parts until they worked, even though the official theory of why it worked came way afterwards to satisfy the intellectual bean counter. Nature works this way through evolution, where it tries millions of different combinations and simply keeps the ones that are fit enough to survive. One of the biggest benefits of tinkering is that even a failure provides valuable information that brings you closer to a solution. Think of it like looking for a lost wallet in your house. If you check the kitchen and it's not there, you haven't failed because now you know for sure the one place you don't need to check. This method allows you to slowly zoom in on a solution without needing to have perfect knowledge at the very start. Every small mistake is like an investment that pays for the discovery of what doesn't work. Tinkering works because of favorable asymmetry, which means that your potential for winning is much bigger than your potential for losing. You can see this in the world of venture capital or book publishing, where a company might invest small amounts of money in a bunch of different projects. Now, most of those projects will fail, but one massive success can pay for all the small losses and create a huge profit. By collecting these options, you are positioning yourself to win big and lose small. In his book Antifragile, Nassim Taleb says that it's better to be a flaneur, someone who stays flexible and seizes opportunities as they appear, rather than be a tourist who is stuck following a preset schedule. I would rather be dumb and anti-fragile than brilliant and fragile, because the barbell strategy allows you to thrive on volatility without the hubris of ever needing to try and understand it. Anyways, after reading Nassim Taleb's books Antifragile and The Black Swan, I've developed a new fascination for the unpredictability of this world and the randomness that colors so much of our lives. If you want to check out my video specifically on the mental model of randomness, I'll link that somewhere on screen. Understanding this mental model turns our uncertainty into a tool, so you can survive rare black swan events and still position yourself for outsized breakthroughs. As we learned today, being right 99% of the time is irrelevant if the 1% failure is fatal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.